We got to talk about Caitlin Clark being an MVP, potentially being the MVP here this year, because I think I'm on the side of like she is hovering in that conversation. I think she is absolutely hovering in the conversation of MVP. I think it's a real tough one to go out there and like emphatically say she is the MVP because of what Angel Wilson's doing this season. Look, Angel Wilson's the best player of all time, having her best ever season. Like it's the worst. This is the worst collection of talent Angel Wilson's ever played with. I know Jackie Young's Jackie Young, but it is like she's averaging a career high in points. No, she's slightly off a career high in points, but she's doing it on way better from the field, way better from three, better from the free throw line, and she's taking 2 less shots a game to average 0.2 points per game less. And as well as that, she's also, in fairness, she is down a half a block per game. Aja winning Depoy this year would be crazy. She has not been the Depoy. She has really not been the Depoy. But when it comes down to it with Caitlin Clark, she is having... I want to see, just in general, what Diana Taurasi did. What Diana Taurasi did in her MVP year. Because she only has one MVP, if I'm not mistaken. She got robbed of one by Candace Parker, though. So Diana Taurasi has one MVP, and it was in 2009. And again, this is the greatest guard of all time. This is the GOAT guard. In Taurasi's best ever season, she averaged 20.4 points per game, 3.5 assists per game on 46% from the field, albeit 40% from three, 90% from the free throw line. Caitlin Clark is shooting comparable from the field, lower from three, but I don't know, she's not even taking more. Slightly less efficient. I think Caitlin's at 2.4 stocks to 2.6 stocks per game. A better assist to turnover ratio in Taurasi, less rebounds, and her team is a better offensive team. So she's averaging more points, less rebounds, like more than double the amount of assists, more steals, less blocks, better assist to turnover ratio, and very, very comparable from the field. And Caitlin Clark's a better defender than Taurasi was. And as well as that, like what can't be overstated? I mean this. It cannot be overstated how important what the gravity of Caitlin Clark is. I think it can't be overstated that when Caitlin Clark comes onto the floor, and she's standing here, she has to be guarded here, and any sort of an action, whether it's a pick and roll or anything, it basically, because she's at the halfway line, they have to guard her here. Instead of teams having to defend from here in, teams now have to defend from here in. And that creates what? Wide open shots for Kelsey Mitchell, wide open shots for layups for Aaliyah Boston, wide open shots for Sophie Cunningham. That Taurasi did not create. I legitimately think that Caitlin Clark's having the best guard season of all time. And again, it is debatable. What we're not talking about here is like a sure cut and dry, she's been the best guard ever, because obviously Taurasi was ridiculous at her peak. Like, we're not going to pretend that Taurasi at her peak was not super and was not in the stratosphere as same stratosphere as what Caitlin Clark is doing right now. But like, it's not out of round possibility to say what like Caitlin Clark is doing and like no guard or player has ever done. It's just unfortunate that what Angel Wilson's doing, nobody has done either. Like, I think it's as good as a given that Caitlin Clark is on the all-W first team. Unless Paige goes Super Saiyan, like, I don't see Dallas doing well to end the year. I just don't. Like, Paige came out with 22 second half points. 22 second half points. She did great. Like, she did great in the second half. And she went out chucking. Something that I like to see. But I'm like, she has too, until Paige has too much of a conscience to be an MVP. Like, Paige has way too much of a conscience to be MVP. I think Olivia Miles has that kind of swagger, that lack of confidence, that belief she's the best player in the world that I think Caitlin Clark has, that I think Kelsey Mitchell has. I think Arike has that, but Arike is not good enough after that. Like, the difference is where it's like, you can be at that level. You can have the mentality, but not the ability to be an MVP right now in the A'ja Wilson era. And let's be clear, Juju Watkins, Sarah Strong, Michaela Blakes, Olivia Miles are all coming up. All coming up. So the standard for being an MVP in this league is getting higher and higher and higher. But I don't know. I think it's going to be very difficult for Caitlin Clark because of, there were 10 games this year that she either flat out didn't play or she may as well not have played. And she was on such a severe minutes restriction, she may as well not have been on the court. There's at least 10 games where that happened. And I got to be real, that probably, just like her rookie year, where those first 10 games were tough, you kind of go out MVP conversation in that scenario. But if the Indiana Fever overtake the Las Vegas Aces, which is not a crazy thing, like, if the Aces had lost to the Mystics, which they could have, they pulled away in the fourth, but like Georgia Amore, like if the Mystics didn't have Georgia Amore playing point guard, they win that game. They win that game. But like right now, the Aces are a game and a half off 2 and a game and a half off Indy in 4. Like, if Indiana go and beat Dallas, and then I can't remember who they play in their next game, but the one after that is Toronto. But like, the Aces play the Mystics. Their next games are the Mystics, the Lynx, and the Dream. There's a world where they go 0-3. If they go 0-3 and the Indiana Fever go, Dream's a tough one. And if they go 1-2, they're not losing to the Tempo. The Tempo lost to the, I know the Tempo lost to the Wings yesterday, and it was a close game with none of their players. Like, Maria Conde even got injured. Kiki Rice got injured during the game. But like, the Wings aren't good right now. But they might still go and, give the Fever some trouble. But if the Fever go 2-1 and the Aces go 0-3, the Fever then go 23-13. The Aces go 23-14. And either way, the Fever have a tiebreaker over Vegas. If it comes to it as well, like, Minnesota might roll over twice for Indiana. If the Indiana Fever leapfrog the Aces and get into third, I think it'll be hard to argue. Especially because, again, if you're going to drop to fourth, you can just as easily drop to fifth or sixth. Like, if the Aces start sliding, that's the real way A'ja's not going to win MVP. But then if you're Caitlin, you do also have to come up against the best player on the best team. And I think A'ja Wilson having the opposite of voter fatigue, having the, if you don't vote for A'ja's going to get you, which is what we learned after 2023. Nobody knows who put A'ja Wilson as fourth on the MVP. But because Aces fans don't like Rebecca Lobo, they just have abused Rebecca Lobo for 4 years. But we saw in 2023, it is, or even when A'ja Wilson lost Depoy to Fee, it is, you give every award to A'ja Wilson or face the wrath of Becky Hammond, the Aces, A'ja herself. And it's actually the opposite of voter fatigue with A'ja Wilson. Like, you have to, it's like if a referee is trying to screw you over in a game, you basically have to win by 30, otherwise the referee is going to lose it for you. and you have to lap Angel Wilson. Like, Angel Wilson lost MVP last year to a player whose team had a 90% win rate when they played, shot 50, 40, 90, and until 2 games to go in the season was leading the league in scoring. And was on the 1 seed. Who won a record total of games in WNBA history. And that couldn't win MVP. You have to be so much better than Angel Wilson that it is inconceivable that you can't win MVP to win MVP. And unfortunately, even if you think Caitlin Clark's been better than Angel Wilson, she has not been so much better than Asia that they're not going to give it to her. And by the way, they're going to give it. Asia's going to win another one here. And she's going to win 3. She's going to three-peat. And then they're going to give her the 4th next year if she's good. So that they make sure, no matter what happens to the Aces, they're going to give her the 4th next year. And then it's, can she win 5 in a row? And they're going to give her the 5th. So it's going to be really, really, really tough for Caitlin to ever win one. That being said, I think she is in the conversation. And it feels like she is a lock for first team unless she falls off a cliff or Paige goes Super Saiyan. It seems like the first team is as good as locked of Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Olivia Miles, Breanna Steward, and Angel Wilson.